No seniors.
2,000.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and join with us as we honor our nation with our Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do need a motion to amend our agenda tonight to include the superintendent's report on the update on Welliver, to include an approval of the invoices from IK Systems, which will be talked about under board business, and to accept the audit committee minute meetings from December 17th. Can I get a motion to Tim? A second? Carrie? Any discussion? All in favor of amending the agenda? Thank you. Do we have any public comments at this time? We welcome comments from the public if we have anybody who wishes to speak. If not, then we will move on to our student representative report. Our student representative this evening is David Mooney. David is a 12th grader. He's hoping to attend Utica College. He's interested in playing football and majoring in economic crime investigation. Ultimately, he would like to work as a federal law enforcement officer. For his internship, he rode along with a member of the city police department. He's been a member of the National Honor Society, Interact Club, and the football and baseball teams. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you. So tonight I'm here to talk about a little bit about National Honor Society. 2 years ago, we did a fundraiser called Bald for Bucks, where students and teachers could go out and fundraise money, and then one day we would go down, we all went down to the gym and we shaved their heads or cut their hair. We raised $19,000 for that, and that went back to for children's cancer, so we're hoping to meet that and exceed that. So if any of you are willing to donate your hair or fundraise,
Sorry. Go ahead.
we're doing that. Before Christmas break, we wrapped presents for the teachers, and the teachers would bring us around $5, and we'd wrap their presents. We raised $300, and that went directly to a family in need in the area here to help them with their Christmas shopping and any other things that they needed. Also here to talk about a little bit about the technology department. I've seen in the past 4 years increasing number of students joining the program, and it's a diversity of men and women. Typically when I got here, there was like one girl in 3 classes, and now we're seeing more girls joining these classes, so that's a positive thing. We're constantly making new projects and different things and challenging ourselves, and it's really great to see that. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
How's the year been going?
It's not bad. A little stressed during senior project paper, but just turned that in yesterday, so we're good to go on that.
And midterms are?
Midterms are coming up in 2 weeks. They're the week of the 29th. I know that because that's my birthday. I have that off, so I'm happy about that.
You'll be 18?
I will be 18.
Okay.
I saw you, I heard you did a ride-along. What is your paper, what is your student, what are your senior project on?
My senior project is actually on concussions in high school football.
Oh.
Because I've seen that a lot of times players in high school, I've had friends that have gotten concussions, but they don't tell anyone because they don't want to not play. So I wanted to see, if you don't tell anyone, what happens, or is there another effect, second impact syndrome. So I learned quite a lot on that topic.
Have you been to see the movie, or are you planning to go see it?
I'm planning on going and seeing the movie, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very well spoken.
Thank you.
Board member comments? Do we have any board members who wish to make comments at this point?
I just got one quick one. I do enjoy having the student back. That's all I want to say. It's really great to get their input. It helps make this job, besides the pay, worth it.
For the record, the pay is 0. Any other board member comments? Okay.
Before Christmas, Ron and I both had the opportunity to tour both the middle school and the high school, and just to get to go around and just see all the wonderful things that our teachers and students are doing. And I just wanted to extend a thanks to Dr. Helvin and both Derek and Mike, just for the opportunity to take us around, and for the student ambassadors who worked with us. It was really a pleasure to see all the wonderful things going on. So, thanks.
Any other board member comments? If not, then let's turn to the superintendent's report.
All right. So the board, tonight I'll start right with our district highlights in terms of our students. Some really great things happening across the board in the district. First, we had a student recently identified as the All Greater Rochester Player of the Year. I want to say this name correctly. Adriana, did I say that right? Adriana Van Kuyken. Yes, thank you. We want to congratulate her. Really a great student as well. I think we saw her earlier today in one of the tours that we were doing in one of the classrooms, but just really has done a really nice job. Again, highlighted in the D and C, and also we've done a whole piece on our Facebook page as well on Adriana. Second of all, I want to really congratulate many of our teams. We have multiple athletic teams that have received scholar awards. For the fall team, scholar awards went out to boys and girls volleyball teams, golf, girls tennis, boys and girls soccer, football, boys and girls cross country, as well as cheerleading. And we're just really proud of those students and their coaches and the hard work that they have demonstrated in the fall semester. And also we had a really nice activity that occurred. We had a holiday giving exercise that took place. The high school collected donations for 32 families, including food baskets and gift cards. The middle school students sent cards to, I want to say that right, Sapphire, a little girl who lost her family recently in a house fire. And then all of the buildings participated in the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign. I'm not sure if you saw many of the kids and the staff out ringing the bells. Free Will collected winter apparel, new and gently used for a local clothing closet. And then Ontario Elementary held a food drive and filled the holiday wishes of 2 families and donated handmade quilts to the Ronald McDonald House. I was there when the quilts were given, and it was really a great presentation. And then lastly, the primary school collected food for the food pantry and visited several local nursing homes. So really great things that our students have demonstrated over the last couple of months, and I'm really proud of the work that they've done and really giving back to the community. Really, really, really great to see. Just to move forward, on January 14th, we're going to have our community roundtable discussion on the school budget. We have put the budget information out there in the community. We did a big e-blast again this week. We had over 400 participants already who have done the survey. That's just as of today, and so we have more time still coming. So through our e-blast and Facebook page and our phone calls out to folks, we've had some good responses. So we're looking to continue to have more response. And then on the 14th, we will have a community roundtable discussion where we'll sit and talk about what the community had to say in that survey, basically. So we look forward to seeing everyone there, and it starts promptly at 6:30. And so we'll see how things go. Just shifting a little bit to New York State, the Common Core, we are just in a very busy time right now and around the Common Core. So you know that recently the governor pulled together a panel that really looked at the Common Core. And after doing that, they came back with 21 different recommendations in terms of changes around the Common Core. So a lot of work to be done. In response to that, the State Ed Department also shared what they are currently doing or have done to really respond to a lot of these things. Some of the recommendations included changing the expectations at the early grades, continuing to really look at the assessments, changes to the APPR, making it so that the scores do not count. Excuse me, I'm not sure what that is, but making it so that the scores do not count for the next several years. And then really looking at the whole entire group of standards and making sure that the standards truly represent what is not only doable for our students, but that they're also rigorous. So there are just lots of changes that will be happening around Common Core. In response to those changes, just want to make sure the board knows and the community knows that I have put out a letter to the entire community. On the board up there, you can see at least an outline of the letter. It is on our website. And in it, I encourage us to continue to work together and to be patient. And as we learn more and more information around the Common Core, we will kind of continue to move forward. And I am not sure what is happening right now, but please forgive me. Of course, in the middle of your board meeting, something's going around with the phone here. All right. So with that said, I'm going to shift gears for a minute now. And we're going to talk a little bit about athletics. I wanted to share with the board, again, some of the great things that are happening with athletics. We have generally, I'd say he's pretty new still, so I'm going to have him come on up to the table. And Tony's going to share a little bit about our athletics. He's going to give us a summary of what's happening with athletics. And then we're going to get into talking about our health curriculum for a couple minutes tonight. Okay? So with that said, Tony, we're going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Well, good evening, members of the board. Dr. Cobbin, thank you for having me here to present tonight. Tonight I will be presenting a summary of our fall athletic teams, and also we have Tim Maddle and Marty Malasani that will do a brief overview of our middle school and high school health curriculum. One thing that I'm very proud of, and Dr. Cobbin sort of stole the thunder a little bit, is every single one of our fall athletic teams earned a New York State Team Scholar Athlete Award. In order to qualify for this award, there's a set requirement of athletes that need to have a 90% or higher GPA, and that's unweighted. Every one of our teams had that, and 3 of our teams had an average of over 96, which is extremely high. So not only are our athletes taking care of business on the field, but they're taking care of business in the classroom, which is even more important. Our football team, they finished the season very strong, winning their last 2 games to take the Connor Ferris Championship. Coach Dave Marine earned the Compeer Coach of the Year award, and that picture down there is Coach Marine at the banquet with Jim Kelly, who was the guest speaker. He was also named the DNC Coaches Who Cares Award. We had multiple athletes make first team and second team All-League. Team awards go to Braden Zanelovic, Spencer Quinn, AJ Shoemaker, our very own Dave Mooney, and Jeff Gattosi. I know it's hard to see there, but our girls soccer team had a tremendous season, so there's a lot of awards up there. They are one of the teams that had a GPA of over 96. So this team thrived on the soccer field, and they thrived in the classroom. Finished undefeated in the Finger Lakes East to win the championship. They ranked as high as number 10 in New York State for Class A schools. Bill Jordan was named Coach of the Year for the Finger Lakes. And then that brings us to A.J. Van Kuyk, Adriana. Adriana was named the All-Greater Rochester Player of the Year. Okay? That is the first time that has happened for a Wayne athlete in girls soccer, and the first time it's happened for a Finger Lakes girls athlete. So that is a tremendous honor that AJ received this year, and those of you that had a chance to see her play, it's a well-deserved honor. AJ was also Player of the Year for the Finger Lakes. She was named to third team All-State, DNC Female Athlete of the Week, and she broke the school record for goals in a season. Previous record was 28, and she scored 36 this season. Multiple kids named to the first and second team All-Star, and team awards go to AJ Van Kuyk, Bailey Jenkins, Mary Penapento, Margaret Stein, Cassidy Hadcock, Morgan Penapento, and Hannah Mitchell, who was also named the 5th team All-State.
Wow.
So tremendous season for the girls soccer team. Sectional finalists, and those of you that are at the game, they could have easily won that championship. The ball just didn't bounce their way, and they couldn't find the back of the net. Boys soccer team, Coach Tim Maddle back here, we'll be hearing from him in a second. He was named Coach of the Year for boys soccer. Also undefeated in the Finger Lakes to take home the Finger Lakes East Championship. They were ranked as high as number 2 in New York State Class A schools. Alex Graziosi, Player of the Year in the Finger Lakes. Multiple league All-Stars again, and team awards go to Nick Burns, Alex Graziosi, Brendan Baskin, Kyle Sense, and Gino Damasello. Again, a very successful boys soccer season. Boys and girls soccer represented Wayne very well this year. Girls tennis, sorry about that. Girls tennis finished with a record of 9-5, which when I went back through the records, that's the first time they have a winning season in a very long time. So, they made great strides this year. Team awards go to Veronica Jerzik, Erica Hargrave, and Serena Fata, who was a foreign exchange student at our district this year. Our golf team finished with a record of 10-4. That is a great improvement from last year, which they were 3-11. So again, made great strides. One league all-star, John Sweeney, and then team awards go to John Sweeney, Jack Camp, and Gavin Lennox. Our girls volleyball team, they finished co-champions of our Finger Lakes East. Coach Naria Buzo was named Coach of the Year. Again, multiple league all-stars, and team awards go to Michelle DiNicola, Katie Levy, Juliana Sherburne, and Laura Lang. They made it to the sectional semifinals. Our boys volleyball team, wins and losses, you might say that wasn't a successful season, but they made great strides throughout the year, and they have a very young team, and the future looks very bright for them. Again, this is a team that had over a 96 GPA average. Even though their record wasn't the best, they still had some representation on the league all-star team. And team awards go to Travis Montgomery, Wes Smith, and Dylan Harrington. Boys cross country finished 15th out of 22 teams in sectionals. One league all-star Tana Frida, and also team awards go to Tana Frida, Aaron Scholtz, and Jack Martin. Girls cross country, okay, that's our third team that had a GPA of over 96 with a 96.683. Regular season record is 17-3, finished 10th out of 23 teams in sectionals. The regular season record is a very good record, but when it comes to weighting, sometimes when we get into sectional competition, you start competing against some of the Monroe County schools because of our enrollment. So, next year they hope to improve on that 10th place finish in sectionals. And I think they have a good cornerstone to build on. Our 8th grader, Adriana Burnett, she was named the first team all-star along with Tara Steensman. Team awards go to Adriana, Spring DeFranco, and Audrey Mattel. And then cheerleading finished second place in the league and sectional tournament. We had a couple girls named to the all-star team. Paige Forth will be representing Wayne Central at the Eddie Meath All-Star Game. Paige finished second, and Alyssa Wicks finished fourth at the Webster individuals for the respective grades. And team awards go to Paige Forrest, Rachel Schofield, and Brooke Larner. And then the last slide I have here, and it's hard to see that chart. I'm glad I brought my little cheat sheet over here. But with the slight decline in enrollment the past couple of years here at Wayne Central, our athletic participation numbers have stood steady at right around 400 for the fall athletic season. So even though our enrollment is declining, athletics is staying strong, and I'm very proud of that. At this time, I'd like to call up Marty Malasani and Tim Mantle to give you a brief overview of our high school and middle school health curriculum.
Tony,
Yes.
I'm just very glad to see that we are still giving most improved, most valuable, and coaches awards. Some schools have gotten away with that for fear of not everybody getting the trophy. I'm glad to see that Wayne Central is still recognizing those students who are above and beyond and who are personable or sportsmen or improved or try their best or whatever. I think it's very important that we continue with that, and I really like this presentation.
Thank you.
How you doing, Tim?
Well, Tim Doom, I'll get started. I'm Mark Molasani. Very quickly, this is my 26th year of teaching, 13th year in this district. Health, physical education, and family and consumer science are governed by these New York State standards. Personal health and fitness, a safe and healthy environment, and resource management. At the middle school level, several years ago when Bob Ramacita was our principal, he liked to use the word married. We married the family and consumer science program and health education. So all the cooking and everything that they learned that was done in family and consumer science is done from a very healthy perspective. Our program, our curriculum, when we designed it, followed the Navigate by the Stars focus. So we are standards-based, and I just went over the standards. We are skills-driven, scientifically researched and based. We are learner-centered, strength-based, and authentic design in the activities we ask them to do. Just to give you a quick example, like today, my 8th grade classes, we are in the midst of our media literacy portion of the class, and in groups, they deconstructed some media ads. Just basic print ads, but they saw the process and the key questions to become a consumer savvy individual. How do you break down a media message? They're gonna eventually be creating their own. The 6th grade level, because I teach 6th and 8th, my 6th graders today, they were designing assertiveness role play skits, where I gave them the topic, but they were to create, and the grade itself is based on ELA as well, because they had to come up with a script. And they're gonna practice the skills of refusal, the assertive techniques. So it's very skill driven. It's not going on. Oh, we go. Okay. The impact. We examine trends and concerns. It's a forum for dialogue and debate. We dispel myths. We improve daily decision making. We set healthy goals. We encourage that one's huge. That we try to get the parents on board as much as possible. It's not our values of raising these kids, but their parents. The more we can open that door, to be liaison to them, to open up that door of discussion, the better. We set healthy goals, as I mentioned, parent communication, empower students to be health advocates. And I gave you I like the outline design to kind of give you the key, the units of instruction, but kind of a breakdown of what we do from one area to another. So at the 6th grade level, we're heavy into career education, not career, just like character education. At one point, they do a very powerful activity that there was recently an article about our family-centered service learning project, where that was one way to strengthen families. Right now, as I mentioned, we're in the conflict resolution and assertiveness training. They move into substance abuse, personal health and safety, fitness and nutrition, and human health, human development, sexuality. Everything is age appropriate and developmentally correct. So you may see similar units in 7th grade, but we have been very careful in terms of the scaffolding and the approach that there isn't going to be replication of information. It's introducing and then elaborating on, and by 8th grade, they're delving in. For example, you see in 6th grade, we do talk about nutrition and fitness. It's their very basics. By 7th grade, they get in much, much more detail, and they're actually cooking with the food. By 8th grade, they're going to be doing a lot of their own research, picking a topic of choice, and teaching in an area, whether it's the athlete's diet. How should an athlete eat differently? It could be eating disorder related. PEDs, the dangers. So they're going to pick a topic of that, and then they're going to educate the rest of the class. So I kind of this is the 7th grade. Tara Mateo is our 7th grade health and family science teacher. So this is her breakdown. And then lastly, in 8th grade. And recently I had Anthony come into my classroom because we finished the career portion of the class, and we culminate that with one-on-one interviews, where the kids they created their own resume, they've filled out applications, they've done an online study to figure out, using their skills and abilities, what careers right now they seem 100% match for them. They look at like 50 or 60, 100% matches, and they go into research on that. Again, just opening their eyes to the possibilities. But then the one-on-one interviews is very powerful to work on all their people skills. So I love what I do. I don't see myself, just feel very blessed doing what I do. And then Tim takes it at the high school level, so I'll let Tim take over.
I think you said everything for the high
There
school.
you go. I'm sorry. I never hold myself to the right amount of time, so I apologize. I went over a little bit.
Marty and I worked many, many years together. I always know go second, I might get out without having to say anything. I moved over to high school about 5 years ago. And as you can see, some of the things that we do with health and wellness and stress, and we mentioned stress as we came up to talk. Our high schoolers are under some stress, so we really rewrote that curriculum and really started to dig into what causes stress and what we can do to really alleviate their stress, not just to talk the walk and whatever, but to really listen to them. If stress is not taken care of, it's going to lead to poor behaviors, and those will be hard to get rid of. Maybe that's why the increase of marijuana usage might be due to teen stress. So we do spend a lot of time on stress and really talking them through it. Alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We talk a lot about addiction. I would say if I could sum that unit up, we hit that hard because addiction is going to be the same, with every drug. It's the addiction part that's going to grab you. and pull you down. And as that addiction grows, they start to lose their positive activities and their desire to be in school. So when they walk out, they really know. And we just did some addiction PSAs, which we put on the loudspeakers at the announcements at the high school, so everyone can see them. And we have some other ones that we made posters that we put all up in the hallway. We have a marijuana hallway now with all the facts and things. And you see the kids going by and reading them, you know, because it's right outside my door, so I can see them slowing down to reading. So I peek out and I say, you're reading it, I'm good. Alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, we're always trying to keep one step ahead of them, which is difficult. Can I just hit this? Yeah. Nutrition and fitness, if I could say what we really get into that one's body image. I think poor body image at this age can lead to a lot of behaviors that will be hurtful, from anorexia to bulimia, just a poor self-esteem. So we really concentrated on that body image. The media isn't doing us any favors. And now they're media times 10 because they have a screen in front of them at all times. So they're struggling with that. So we have to teach them healthy eating without thinking that they can't eat anything. Food's not bad. Food's energy. We need to teach moderation and things. With the human sexuality and healthy relationships, we are comprehensive sex education. We do teach comprehensive sex education, but we do a lot with relationships, how one should treat another.
Tim, in the sexuality thing, you see a lot on TV now about the sexting and stuff like that. Are we teaching the kids that is inappropriate and that they shouldn't be doing that? I mean, I don't know if that's got into the program.
At the middle school level, we address that.
Okay.
I actually have a senior coming over, doing her senior project on social media. She's actually getting into the digital footprinting. We want to proactively deal with those kind of topics early on, like make them realize that later on, part of the whole career development, that's something to know about. So yes.
Very good.
They know, don't press.
So there's not enough
take
coverage
pictures,
about it.
put up and send, right, but you always have to continue
Right.
to talk about it, because
Oh, yeah.
new things come around and the younger kids come through, and, but they're very aware, and it's now getting involved with the law, and there's some heavy penalties for that. I've seen over the last year or two them getting smarter with it as we addressed it and talked about it and explained what you can and cannot do, and had a couple assemblies on it. And they saw some of their buddies go down for that, so we just, like I said, gotta keep one step ahead of them. Yep.
And as long as we're on the subject of texting getting into trouble, do you talk about age of consent and what can happen to somebody's life if an 18-year-old's dating a 16 or 17-year-old and things get out of hand, and how it can affect their whole rest of their life?
Yes, we do. We
And
don't know
at what
that
age?
that's against the law. And you could have a high schooler who's 18 dating a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
It just can't become sexually active. A lot of times when those scenarios play out that way, and they are, mum's the word, sometimes with the parents, sometimes with the girlfriend, and it gets really hard to prove. But things can go bad, and people start pointing fingers, and then you're on the hot seat. So we very clearly tell them those age differences. And
At what age is that taught?
18.
Reinforced and whatever.
18 cannot have a sexual
No,
relationship.
what age
That would
is
be
it taught?
high school.
Oh, high school, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually doing that unit right now. We also tell them the law about if you do get a girl pregnant, that you're gonna have to support that baby till the baby's 21. It's amazing how many guys do not know that.
Just on that topic, though, he has safe dates. We at the middle school level, we do a safe dates program as well. And we will address that, but not as in-depth as he would.
Right, I was wondering if it did fall under something that was listed there, it didn't say it specifically.
Right.
Because Tim, I think a lot of the boys don't understand that if daddy finds out that they've had sex with their daughter and daddy files charges, they're registered as a sex offender.
Sex offender.
And I don't think, just like you said, they don't understand they have to support a baby. They don't understand that follows them.
For, long time. Yeah, they could really mess up a large portion of their life by, being acting looking stupid being dumb. So, I mean, there's a lot of, in anti-homosexuality, there's a lot of things that, I'm sure time tonight wouldn't permit, but there's a lot of issues there. There's a lot of things where you have, certain people feel certain ways and certain things with, contraception versus abstinence, and, we're all parents here, so I'm sure we all might feel a little differently on all that. The research shows that comprehensive sex education is working well, both the teaching of abstinence and birth control. That's the route that we're going with, and we've steadily have seen birth rates over the last 10 years decline. The STD rate is not declining, it's going up. Maybe kids are having less sexual intercourse, but they may be doing other things that can transmit STDs. Your birth control cannot protect you from all STDs. Condoms can't. Obviously, any oral contraceptive can't stop STD. And they really just got to get all these things and work them all out, and be mature about it, be educated about it, talk to their parents about it. But the one thing that we do know is that teenagers are being sexually active. And, we know that. So trying to have them be safe, you got to constantly be going on both sides of that, So that was human sexuality. We'll move on.
Is this is this a one semester
This is a
course
20
once a year?
It's 20 weeks. It's half a year.
And that's it? They have to take it, they all have to take it once during high school for one semester?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get them in any different grade level. I can have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders all in one class, which just benefits and drawbacks to that.
To my question. So, half year, that's what's required, so that's what you get. And there's so many topics to cover. Do you ever feel like you've covered enough with the amount of time that the state says you have?
To me, no.
Right. But the middle school seems like we're covering 6th, 7th, and 8th grade when, that's a little bit more than we need, but we can get more topics done, and they're doing a lot more stuff with it. I think that's great.
Hitting at a different age level, the kinds of things they learned in 6th and 7th and 8th grade.
Right, but it's nice to have it each year.
In 6th and 8th grade, it's every other day for the whole year,
Right.
so I get them for the whole year. At the 7th grade level, it's a half a year, 20 week, kind of like at the high school level. But I love to be able to have touch with my kids throughout the year and not just lose them after, when you're really starting to bond with them, to understand them. And
That's a big thing, Marty and I, when we were teaching together, that they wanted this to have the 6th graders for 20 weeks and then a new set of, and we said, no, give them all to us for the whole year. Wouldn't seem as much, but that way we could be in their presence all year.
it's a bit of a logistical nightmare because I have 193 students. Because I have 6 sections of 6th graders and 4 sections of 8th. I wouldn't want it any other way though, because the difference you can make, for the whole year, it makes a difference.
When do we hit on the parenting part of any curriculum? We have that at the high school?
We used to have a parenting class. It's no longer being taught. We can talk, within that unit, we talk a little bit about, read some articles of some parents who wrote some articles when they got pregnant as a teen and how difficult it was and the things that they missed out on and chances of college or going maybe to a better college. Still, in some respects, struggling financially. What does it take to be a parent? Being a parent myself, I can share a lot out that it is tough. We figured it out in my class today that I had my first child when I was 31. Because we were talking and I said, well, just let me think. How old was I? So I told him, Audrey's a senior. I said, Audrey's 18, I'm 49. I said, who wants to do the quick math in here? 31. It's 31 years old. And they're all like a little bit stunned by that. I said, well, and they kind of looked at me, but why so late? I couldn't find a wife.
Does your wife know you're saying that, Jim? Because I know her.
But, I told them the things I wanted in place. Finishing a master's degree, finding a job, teaching for a while, and then, not getting married right away. Having an engagement period. that was long, it was 3 years. You know, they kind of were a little bit taken back by that, you know. But the parenting part of things, I think it just comes from us sharing a lot of our parenting stories, the good and the bad. You know, I got a girl right now in my class that she's a mom. Last year I had one that was in my class that was pregnant. You know, we can't start slamming these girls because of this. They got to take care of a baby now. You know, I did talk to the girl who is a mom right now and took her out of class before we started this unit, which we did this week. I said, you know, between me and you, I think you did the honorable thing. You had your baby. I said, and you look happy raising that baby, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to remember, when I go in there and teach, I can't make it all sound like a picnic and roses because it's not. It's hard. But personally, I don't want you to think that I'm slamming you on your decision. I said, I'm sure you have a lot of tender moments with your baby, and I'm sure you have a lot of moments where you're up at 4 in the morning and it's hard and you got to get to school. And I told her, anything that you want to share during this unit, you can. And if you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. They all know she's a mom, you know. And she says, no, I don't mind talking. So, I mean, we're getting a little extra education through that. Good. All right, so.
Tim, can I just ask one quick question? On your last slide, what is girl positive?
Oh, it's a movie about HIV.
Okay.
He's an HIV.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Okay, this slide right here says the emotion, the knowledge, and the relationship, and it's important that when we get into health, that we are able to give the kids the knowledge, and that we're also able to get to their emotional level and build a relationship with them. If we don't, we won't get the behavior change. So I think health is really unique in that way. We have to have updated knowledge that's on. We have to get to their emotional level. It's got to go from here to here. And we have to develop a relationship with our students. And I think maybe a little bit more than some of the other classes because of what we're talking about. If we can do that, we can get behavior change. What that would look like on this slide right here is relationship. We're looking for the trust, the respect, the caring, the mentoring. I don't know, Dave, I'll put myself out there. Did I do a good job with you with that in your class when I taught you? You know, the emotions with trying to make them feel hope, fear, courage, sad, upset, and optimism. And then the knowledge of the facts, the definitions, the stats, and the statistics. And this is what this sheet did. It just gave you some writings that they wrote. And if you take the time to read through their writing, they'll show you that they are experiencing these emotions, that they're making behavioral changes or behavioral adoptions. I just want to read the last one to you on page 1. This boy writes, "It was a very influential video. I know I would never want my mom to have to bury me. I will never drink and drive." You know, and many of them come back that intense. I don't believe that was a behavior change. I believe that was a behavior adoption because I don't think he was drinking and driving before that. But you know, you can take some time to read through that and see where we definitely are drawing these emotions out. And my last thing right here is just, these are different activities that we do that will draw out those things, the factual, emotions, and the relationships from the kids to make sure that we can get those behavior changes. So I know we've already talked about it.
And the list to end, physical education, health education, there's a lot of research, the correlation between healthier students, more athletic students, better grades. You know, they're more just invested in their schools and about the business of being a student. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is it going through the whole series, or do you divide up the boys and the girls at any point during that?
We do not.
Just asking.
Yeah, 6th grade on the Cohen.
Okay.
Thank you,
Congratulations
gentlemen.
on your soccer season. Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, coaches.
A couple
and
athletic
teachers.
events going on.
Just a few.
There we go.
Okay.
Can you bring the camera?
You want to text us and let us know how the events are going?
There we go. All right, so shifting gears now, we're going to talk a little bit about the comprehensive studies. So you know, at our last board meeting, I shared with the board my feeling and thought that we need to, in order to best handle and resolve the concerns around GNA and just thinking about our future, that in addition to having a strategic plan that we put into place and doing some strategic planning, that we also need to think about these concerns really in a comprehensive way. And to do that, the mechanism that I like for us to go through is a comprehensive study where we really look at a number of things. And I have just outlined for you some of the things that I'd like to do and have us look at, and some of the costs that would be associated with it and persons who would be involved in it. So what we'd like to do is really do a study that looks really at 4 different areas. The first is the fiscal pieces, looking to see where we're at currently as a district in terms of our spending rate. You know, what would we be like 4 years, 5 years out from now? And then what would we be like if there was a concern that occurred around Gannett, if there was a, 4 years out, 5 years out? What would we look like if there was a concern with the tax issue that we talked about a little bit before, if that were to come into play? And then what if both came into play? What would we look like, and what kinds of decisions might we need to really consider and think about? So we want to kind of really think about the whole fiscal piece as we move forward. We want to really be able to project out 5 years from now, and then think about how we might best respond to any concerns fiscally. So the first part of our study that I'm proposing is that we do a financial piece. And to do that, the consultant that we'd like to use is Dr. Rick Timms. Rick is well known throughout the region. I think I shared with you a lot about him at our last meeting. He is just a real guru around finances and a real voice. Recently, there was an article put out, and I think I put it out on the table for you, that kind of shares with you how he really advocates for districts around school aid and really best practices occurring around finances. So in addition to the website that's out there around Rick, there's a lot of information out there as well. To complete Rick's portion of the study, the cost that we're looking at is between $3,000 and $5,000 at the most. He and I have been talking a lot about how we might best keep the cost very low. And he's agreed to do a lot of things really over the phone with Greg, and then come in when need be, and really do a lot of stuff from home, which we believe will save quite a bit of money. So that would be the first part, and that would take place really from January to February. Around February, March, we'll get into some strategic planning after we hear more about our finances. And then we would move in April through June, doing a couple of things simultaneously. So the second part of the study that I would propose is really now, really what I call the meat and potatoes of the study. We will get in and look at our building usage, our staffing structures, our districting zones, how we're doing around our zoning, and our enrollment, and really take a comprehensive look at all of those things. Now, to do that kind of work, I did a lot of research out there and looked at folks from all over in terms of consultants, from the U of R all the way up to Capital BOCES, to see who might be able to help us out with this. And the folks that I was able to find really are some great folks, and we'll talk about most of them in just a minute. But again, Dr. Timms would do this work. He would coordinate the work, and there's a group of folks, Dr. Paul Seversky, Dr. Sam Shavat, or Mr. Sham Shavat, and also possibly a couple consultants from Costello and Silky, Dr. Alan Pohl and Dr. Jessica Cohen. Now, each of these folks have a very strong background in really looking at enrollment, efficiencies, zoning, building usage, and being able to recommend efficiencies for districts. Dr. Seversky was the former superintendent for Madison Oneida BOCES, has a strong business background. Sam Shavat is a former school superintendent and currently does a number of efficiency studies, merger studies. He's done a lot of work around transportation as well. And then the group from Costello and Silky, we'll talk about them in a minute, but Dr. Alan Pohl and also Jessica Cohen are former district superintendents as well. Alan Pohl was at DCMO BOCES, and Jessica Cohen was the former superintendent for the Onondaga BOCES, one of the largest BOCES really in the state of New York, right near the Syracuse area. So pretty strong experts. Each of them have had really 30, 40,000 students under their leadership at one time, and they really know this work and are really strong experts. Again, their cost, just to kind of look at the cost, for their work, which is again the meat and potatoes of the study, it would cost us around 25, no more than between 25 and 30,000 to get that done. I spoke with Mr. Seversky yesterday. He has shared with me that he believes that he'll be able to do this, get all of this done for around 20, 21,000, possibly at the most. He has sent me a draft letter with his proposal in it, and I'll be bringing that back to the board at our next meeting so you can see the whole scope and sequence of the work that they would be doing. So the third part of this study is really now looking at, once we have back the building usage, have back the staffing information, the enrollment and fiscal pieces, really what does the board really want to do in the future, basically. So we'll now be looking at future capital projects, and we'll be kind of really going through and seeing what are the interests of the board. This will be done again with Dr. Timms, but also our architect that we will need to, by the way, select pretty soon. The cost on this really is just when Dr. Timms comes in and works with us or works with the architect. We are going to get some costs for that soon and be able to share more of that with you. But in his contract that he has given to us, his hourly rate is $150 an hour to do the work that he needs to when he's here on site. We believe that should cost us probably around $2,000 at the most to get that piece done. And then the last piece of this comprehensive study that I'm proposing is that we do a real look at transportation in terms of, our efficiencies. Are there ways that we can become more efficient? So we would be looking at routes. We would be looking at, our whole coordination piece, our staffing structure with transportation. And really, a lot of that's really at the bottom because it really needs to come last because we want to, again, go back to looking at the building usage, the staffing, where are we at? And so all of that will kind of flow together. Once we figure out where we're at and what our interests are, then we would also look at and investigate transportation. Do we want to continue the same structure? How could we do things more efficient? So all of this will really help us to really comprehensively look at where we're at, what we're doing, and then help us to at least figure out where do we want to go basically in the future. So when I pulled all this together, one of the things I wanted to do was make sure that this was cost effective as well for the district. And so I was able to work with our BOCES superintendent, and his team is willing to have us run this through a BOCES COSAR to do all of this. So with all of this in mind, really, the costs at this time are projected around $45,000. But once we're done with the aid attached to it, it's really at $13.5 maybe a little less. I honestly don't know if I can do any better than that with the amount of work that we're trying to do. Typically, you're looking at $60,000, maybe $70,000, $75,000 to get this done. I think this is also, by the way, a good practice for us to do. Really, in a district of our size, we really should be doing some area of this kind of study every so many years just to make sure that we are constantly looking at efficiencies fiscally in terms of looking at our enrollment, looking at our capital projects, as well as our transportation. So I think it's really a good thing for us to do because it gets us into that piece of investigating and looking at ways that we might be better efficient, basically.
Have we ever had a comprehensive study like this?
To my record, I have not found anything like this done.
Not that I can recall.
Nothing even, any of it?
And most districts, just so you know, they
Right.
do study these.
I think it's a good idea to know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can't plan it
Now,
out.
the amount you have up there, you've put the higher amount as your total,
Yes,
and so that 13.5 could be even less.
absolutely. I kind of really over-projected
Right.
with all
Just
this,
to make sure.
just in case. And both Dr. Timms and Dr. Seversky have said to me, man, in fact, Paul said to me just yesterday, he says, I so appreciate that price. However, I can assure you, we're not going to be paying $25,000. He said at the most, we're looking at about $22,000.
And by saying we should do a part of this each year, we could probably better budget if we do budget for each part each year, so it's not all at one lump sum every time. So
Absolutely.
Going
to the
forward.
future with
Going
it.
forward, yes.
Getting
yes.
into
Get
a
it done
cycle.
now and then
Right.
Yes.
start the cycle up.
I mean, at this point, because again, everything that's come to us, I think it's really important that we get it kind of going right now to get all of this done. But in the future, yes, I would agree with you. We take a piece at a time over so many years and continue to kind of think that through. Yes, go ahead.
Greg, even like before the, I know you hate that word, but the capital project that went down years ago, there was nothing done like this to determine what we really should have done or what so it just was kind of.
It wasn't really done from an outside perspective. I mean, you know, that project wasn't proposed without a lot of thought put in by then Superintendent Havens, and, you know, we had charts showing that if we went from 3 elementaries to 1 or 3 to 2, what the savings would be. It was based on the population trends we were seeing at the time and the building trends in our geographical area. But there was no one from the outside. I mean, the architects came in and obviously helped design the proposed addition to OP and, you know, what a 900+ student enrollment school would look like at that site. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion about the uses of free will and OE if they weren't used as school buildings, but not done with outside sources as
Not this intense.
No.
Okay.
And just to make sure I clarify too, each of the folks who will be coming in to do this study, their job will not be to tell the board to do this or do this or that. What they will do is present findings, and they'll present some recommendations, and then they will just release it to the board to decide which direction you'd like to go. But they will certainly study the issues, look very deeply at them, and provide you with some real comprehensive feedback and pieces that we could really use to figure out where do we want to head in the future as Wayne Central. And I think these pieces, along with the strategic planning piece, will really help us to really have a plan that we can implement and move forward in a much better way in the future here.
And they'll be coming back with cost-saving measures and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay.
They will
So then they'll
definitely
be like thinking outside the box, maybe come up
Absolutely.
with things that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Restructuring buildings or.
Yeah, they will
anything.
provide a number of ideas.
Options.
Yeah, and options. And,
Okay.
and you can take the options or you don't have to take them. And keep in mind again, and maybe if we can go to the next slide, all of these people are really folks who are truly experts in their field. They have spent a lot of time looking at efficiencies across districts and really running much larger organizations than ours and helping districts to really continue to look at ways that they can do things in a better way. Dr. Timms, again, just to kind of go through some of our consultants, just an expert in school finances, well known in the area. Sam Shavat is again from the Capital Region. He's been a district superintendent for a smaller district and really understands many of the things that we're going through currently here at Wayne. Dr. Paul Seversky, again, former Madison Oneida BOCES superintendent. And Paul and Sam do a lot of work together around efficiencies. Dr. Richard Costello and Dr. Bill Silkey are well known for efficiency studies, but also they're big superintendent search firms. They do a lot of different kinds of studies, whether it's shared services, whether it's efficiencies around transportation. They work very closely on those kinds of things. Dr. Costello and Dr. Silkey have, it's called Costello and Silkey's firm, and Dr. Pohl and Cohen, they work underneath them. So we'll be kind of pulling from each of these kind of consultants. Each have an expertise in certain areas, and so we wanted to try to pull the best people that we could find across the state to do this kind of work. On the next page, for the transportation folks, Mark Walsh is a local. He lives actually in Walworth. And his business is located as well in Walworth. Transportation Associates, they do a lot of work. One of the largest firms in the state of New York, 30-something years in working with transportation efficiencies. So Mark he's local. Christopher is another transportation expert, and Lewis is a former superintendent who also understands transportation very closely. So those are the consultants that we are suggesting. And tonight in your packet, what I've asked for is approval, even though the costs are under the 10,000 range, but I'm still bringing it through the board, and I've asked for really the part 1 and the part 3 of the proposed study to be approved tonight, so that we can go ahead and get Rick in and get him going and working. He's already started to chat with me a little bit about finances, and Greg, we met with him by phone recently, and again, his costs are estimated between $3,000 and $5,000, and then $150 an hour for the capital pieces. And so we'd like to just go ahead and get that started and get it moving. And then board, I will come back at the next meeting about part 2 and about part 4. I'll have another draft for you and the contract for you to look at and to approve. Basically.
Can you just move the slides back to the blue one where
Sure.
it had that one?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm.
And again, we'll be moving simultaneously through a number of things at the same time, especially around April to June. But we hopefully will have full recommendations for you around June that we'll be kind of going through with. And board, the other thing I think is really important just to say is that we also want to make sure that we keep the community as closely connected to this as possible. And so one of the things that I'd like to do not only is to continue to write to the community and use the newsletter and use our Facebook page, but I also want to engage with the community. We have set up, I think the last week in January, we're going to have some invitations for a nice breakfast and bring in some of our folks, our political leaders, folks from parents from our community, you know, just people who are connected to Wayne intimately. Want to make sure that we keep them in the loop so that they also continue to give us feedback and we continue to provide feedback for them as well. So we'll be having a couple of get-togethers, and the goal is just to continue that dialogue with the community so that we're all moving together as a team, basically.
Man, so I just have a question. How can we look at a future capital project
Sure.
before we look at building usage, staffing,
Sure.
and district enrollment?
So the first part of what he's going to be doing is he's looking at all of the aids that are connected to capital projects. So we just finished a capital project, and he's looking at how can we maximize the aid? How can we get more aid? Now, that's part 1 of his piece. But after we finish the other pieces, part 2, if you look at the dates again, it's from April to June. He'll be back to do more of this
Right.
stuff once the other parts are done. But the first part is your aid structure. So we just finished our big project, and we've been looking at how could we get extension, because our project technically isn't closed, because we have a piece that's still working with Welliver. And Rick, being the fiscal expert out there, he has really given us some questions to think about and ways that we might go forth to get our aid. So what we don't want is to get into things happening next year and to lose any aid. We want to keep and get more aid possible connected to the past capital project and ones that we've done before. So what he's doing right now is helping us to get into state ed, ask the difficult questions. He's looking at all the finances around our capital projects and all the aid structures and lines that are coming in. And he's just helping us to investigate ways to get more money for our district, basically. So
Okay.
he won't be done because he's working now. He'll continue up until June, basically.
Okay.
This is an opportunity to bring in some of the most experienced
Yeah.
school people in the state of New York to look at our operations, to evaluate our operations, and to give us their findings. Not necessarily recommendations, but their findings. It's another set of eyes and ears looking at our operations from some very, very experienced
Absolutely.
Somebody that knows
administrators.
better than we do.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. That's a nice way of putting it.
Right,
Dennis, yeah.
right. You know, one of the things that we learned early as superintendents, we don't know everything, but we do know how to reach out. I'm not afraid to reach out to the best of the best and get help. And I think this would be great for us. I do. And I will be bringing Dr. Timms in to meet with the board and to say hello. And also, all of our other folks, we want them to come in and to engage with you all. So in the future meetings that we have, I'll be talking about opportunities to have them come at our board meeting and for you to meet them and to work with them and ask any questions that you like, basically.
How is that moving with nobody there?
Amy's got it. She's got it over there. Okay. So, board, with that said, I'm going to just keep moving here. I also want to talk about Senator Nozzolio and Regent Norwood. So we had, let me start with Senator Nozzolio. I put a call out to his office again today. I'm still waiting to hear from him about a time to get together. I expect to hopefully connect with him within the next week. And just so you know, in terms of the nuclear power plant issue, today I had got a great call from Sean Bruno just before our meeting at 5 o'clock. Sean is the current superintendent for Mexico Central School District, and he has been shared a lot with me today about how they are responding to their issue around their nuclear power plant concern. And what he's going to do is come to see me next week on Wednesday. We're going to spend a couple hours together and just talk about strategies he's using and things that we might be able to use here, and just kind of learn from each other and connect with one another.
I think that's where Michael Havens came from.
Yes,
It
Michael
is.
was there as the interim. And Sean has a much bigger concern than we have. His district he shared today, their budget, 49% of their budget is connected to their
It's a
nuclear
very
power
poor
plant.
area.
Yeah, I
It's a
49%.
very poor area.
And so to lose that is major for him. But he has been able to get Senator Schumer, the governor, all to really make some pretty powerful statements. And so I'm going to spend some time learning from him and try to figure out things that we might be able to do to also, get some response too. So we'll be meeting next Wednesday at 3:15, and I'll let you know how that goes, okay, for sure. Regent Norwood was with us today. We had a really great visit from him. He came through, saw our high school, our middle school, and then OE. And I just enjoyed talking with him and just getting to know him even more. And, he really spent time, I thought, talking with some of our students and just getting to learn about our programs. He had great things to say. Spent a lot of time with a number of our special ed classrooms, just learning about our programs there. And, he shared, this is a model for many across the state, and he was just very pleased at what he saw here at Wayne. Also shared with me briefly, you got to get some other folks out to see us. And so this afternoon, late this afternoon, I spoke with the secretary for the Commissioner of Education. So she's going to be in the Rochester and Buffalo area in early February, doing some things with Rochester and Buffalo. And we think we may be able to get a visit. So if that is possible, I'm going to stay on it. So I got her phone number now, and I'm going to call her back again. I promise to send her an email tomorrow with all the details about our district. And so we'll see what happens. And if that occurs, trust me, we'll be in touch. So it'd be nice to bring the commission through. She's been in the area before, so it'd be nice to have her come and say hi to some of our kids. So again, great visit today. Last piece I have for you tonight is about Welliver. Greg and I had a conversation with some of the Welliver folks just before. We were trying to reach out and see if we can get a meeting with them to get things resolved. And in trying to do so, we really didn't get a date to sit down and meet with them. But we did get a notice of claim, as you all have heard about. And so our response was, we understand, and they have to reserve their rights by a certain time frame. So notice of claim doesn't mean necessarily that I'm suing you, but it does mean that, I'm preserving my rights to do so. But after that, after receiving that, we reached out to Joe Shields, had a conversation with him, and he's advised us to continue to try to sit down and come to the table if possible. And so we have tried to reach out to them again to get a date, and we're hopeful to have a sit-down meeting with them for next week. Do you want to share any of the information? I kind of tried to highlight anything else you want to add to it?
No, as Mathis described, we actually had a date set up for over the recess. He and I were available, the construction manager was available, but the project manager for Welliver, who's obviously one of the key guys, was not available, so that date didn't work. I reached back out to them. I didn't reach out to them immediately after that because we received the notice of claim, and so I wanted to make sure that we talked with Joe Shields and, got his input and direction. Didn't want to do anything that would make things any worse. But he did, as the superintendent described, encourage us to try to continue talking. So I reached out to them again and asked for dates for next week. And we're going to try and meet and leave the lawyers out of it at this point, if they're agreeable to that. So just to recap, we had written a change order for them for the concession stand rework portion that they did for $58,000. They feel they're entitled to $156,000. So that's a discrepancy that is at stake at this point. They did submit a payment application to us in December, and I did not process that because I wanted, a response from them, because when we sent the change order to them, which was dated in October, they immediately responded by email to the construction manager that they were not in agreement with the amount, and they said they were going to follow it up in writing with a letter. Well, we never got anything in writing. So to prompt some action from them, I did not process their last payment, which is about $40,000. So that's where things stand now. You know, we're hopeful that a meeting will take place next week. It is having an impact on our project though, because we were slated to have everything done by June. So this year we had budgeted a full year's worth of building aid. That's not going to be the case because we don't have the ability to close out the project and get the final cost reports in. There is a way to request, it's called an early aid start request form. So if you have certain situations with a project, you can request directly to facilities planning to start the aid, because even though you have this issue, the aid possibly can start flowing, because this is something that's somewhat out of our control. So we'll be exploring that. We're actually going to have the financial advisor come in probably in the next month or so and present to the board what that exactly looks like. We've talked with Rick Timms about this. You know, I actually knew it was an option back in December. So we have some flexibility, even though we probably won't get the full amount of aid. You don't lose it, it just gets pushed back in time. You know, but at stake is about $700,000 or $800,000 worth of aid, but there's also a band payment on our current borrowing that we have some flexibility with. So hopefully, if we don't get the aid, we can manipulate the band payment when we go from temporary financing and turn it into a bond. So those are all things we're exploring as we move through this issue, and we'll keep you abreast, but that's the latest. Yes?
Is there some reason we have not paid what we think we owe them? Or is it not possible to pay a partial?
Well, because they have to actually agree to the change order, and they have to sign off on it, and they refuse to do that.
All right.
But actually, through our attorney, it was, you know, to start out with a number that we felt was reasonable, and then, you know, have them react to it. And, you know, we didn't fully expect them to agree to the 58, but we surely have not, and I don't believe should agree to the 156.
So you gotta get them to at least agree to something.
Okay.
And we haven't been able to get them
I
to.
didn't know how that worked.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're like, nope, we want 156 or nothing. That
Right,
kind
and
of
basically because we owe them the money, they have to go through the notice of claim process, and, you know, it's not that we didn't expect this to happen at some point in time. You know, it's kind of part of the process.
Now, keeping from turning it over to a bond, does it cost us more money in interest?
It depends, but no, we looked at that, and,
I just don't wanna see us, you know, hold up $100,000 and it costs us 200.
Right.
You know.
You know, and one of the things that Rick Timms shared with us on the phone that I hadn't really thought about, he said, well, what if you took the legal costs that you've incurred, charge that to the project, and spend the rest of the project money and then close that out, and then whatever you settle with Welliver, take that out of the general fund. And I'm still, you know, we didn't do that, obviously. I want to talk to the auditors before we make a move like that. I did charge any legal fees that we had last year. If the board remembers, we spent about $45,000 with Dr. Paul Carr, who was the forensic engineer that worked with us. That was all charged to the general fund, plus I'd have to actually go through the Joe Shields bills and see how much of what we paid them was attributable to that. And the fact that we paid it last year, I would want to talk to the auditors to see if there's a way to, you know, take a last year's expense and put it against because the capital fund doesn't have the same timetables as the general fund. I mean, you still have the fiscal, the school year, but it's kind of like an ongoing cycle where the general fund stops and then starts over, stops and then starts over. The capital fund just kind of continues on until the projects are done. But that's an option that we hadn't thought of that might give us some more flexibility and help us on the aid side.
Right.
You know, I haven't shared with Welliver you're holding up our aid because I don't want to give them any
Leverage.
any more leverage than
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not watching the videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Greg, what do we, what was their total,
contract.
yeah,
Carla, from memory, I think it was around $7 million. Don't quote me, but I think it was in that range.
just for them?
Out of a total of almost $15 million. They were obviously the general contractor.
Right.
So board, we will keep you very abreast of what's happening with that. Our hope again is to sit down with them next week. We're gonna really try to go in and see if we can have a good sit-down conversation and get some movement somewhere. So we'll continue to let you know how things are going. All right, so with that said, I'm all set. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excuse me. Next, under board business, we have a budget transfer of $47,992.50. Can we get a motion to approve that transfer? Matt, a second. Dennis, any discussion? All in favor? Next, under board business, is to accept the internal claims auditor report and the corrective action plan. Matt, do you want to speak to that at all?
No, I think they're pretty much self-explanatory. Unless anybody's got any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Matt? If not, can we get a motion to approve? Carla, second. Carrie, any discussion? Questions? All in favor? Next is the first reading of policies 4211, the organizational chart, and 5675, student grading information system. Can we get a motion to approve that? Tim, a second. Phil, any discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Second reading of policies 7513, administration of medication, and 7521, students with life-threatening health conditions. Can we get a motion to approve? Dennis, second. Carrie, any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And then last, the comprehensive study proposal as outlined by Dr. Cowan. That would be parts 1 and 3. Can we get a motion to approve? Matt, a second. Carla, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? Thank you. Consent agenda. The superintendent recommends the approval of CSE, CPSE recommendations, the treasurer's report, meeting minutes from December 10th, gifts to Wayne Scholarships Fund and a weaving loom, and personnel actions. Can we get a motion? Yes. And we will be having an abstention here on the personnel action. Can we get a motion to approve? Pam, a second. Dennis, all in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Carrie is abstaining because she's one of the volunteers who's being approved. Committee reports, communications, Jeremy.
We had a meeting tonight, the budget, community conversation is gonna be next Thursday here at 6:30. And then after that, our next meeting is 5:30 on the 11th of February in this room.
Okay, audit, Matt?
We're meeting a week from today in this room, 5:30. And we're just gonna have to cut it to 6:30 to make it for the next meeting for the roundtable. And we'll be talking about, we'll discuss the internal claims auditor report that we got last month, but he wasn't available. So we'll go over any details we had there. We'll be reviewing policy 5572 and the mission statement of 5572 has to do with the audit committee itself. And claims auditor professional development and Board of Education audit committee professional development and external auditor request for proposals. Things on the agenda. And that's
okay. And we need to go back to Jeremy for a minute.
Board business, there's a letter F that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it. I'm sorry.
That's
okay. Yep. The letter F is to include an approval of the invoice from IK Systems in the amount of $27,257.88. These are the changes to the security system that we were talking about.
It's 28,000.
28,000. Yes. Can we get a motion to approve? Carrie, a second. Phil, any discussion?
I just kind of wondered, you've looked, I mean, everything
Yes.
that's the
we
best?
We have a full scale, I think on your table, it shows you the whole
Right.
scope and
I
sequence.
see
Yes, we
that.
did. Yep. We wanted to make sure we had someone who had the same system that we had as well, and so that all of it flows together. 'Cause you don't want to have one contractor with a different system from your system, because then they don't all meet. So yes, we did vet the process and look to see what was out there, basically.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor? Thank you. Policy Committee, Phil.
We met tonight. we went over the new proposed code of conduct policy from BOCES and a few of the other policy readings that we had, some minor changes that will be coming down the pike. We did actually take a look at 4211, which was the organizational chart. We just did the first reading for it. There were some concerns brought up regarding the athletic director and the booster club. We are going to actually make one more quick small change to that org chart to alleviate any concerns about it appearing that booster clubs technically report to the AD. We're just going to put the word liaison in there so that it's clear that he is the liaison for the booster clubs, that they don't report to him. That should alleviate any issues. And I think the only other thing we're going to do is actually make that organizational chart. It's referred to in 4211. It's referred to in 4210, yet the org chart by itself stands as policy 4211. There's not even a cover sheet for it. So we're going to actually merge the org chart with 4210, which refers to it anyways, so it makes it cleaner. So that you'll see that in the second reading.
So then we won't have a 4211.
That's correct.
Okay.
Other than that, that was everything for tonight's meeting. The next one is February 11th, Thursday at 5 p.m. I will be out of town, and I think Dennis is going to be running that meeting.
Any questions for Phil? I made one other mistake tonight. I forgot to include the audit committee minutes from the December 17th meeting on the consent agenda. So can we get approval of the audit committee minutes from the December 17th meeting? Dennis, second. Carrie, any discussion?
I'd just like to say that, we're seeing some of these things for the first time, and the reason is we've been supposed to be doing it all along. We just didn't know it, and that's what we learned from our fiscal training. So that's what we'll be expecting more of is stuff from the audit committee. So that's the reason for that.
You'll be seeing those minutes on a regular basis in the board packet. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
No, all in favor?
All in favor? Yep. I got to do that too. Yeah. Board member comments, or president comments. Carrie mentioned the fact that she and I were able to go on a tour of the middle school and high school 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somewhere in that range. As a former high school administrator, I'd like to say that I was extremely impressed with the time on task that I saw while I was touring the building, and with the climate for learning that was demonstrated in both buildings. I was very impressed with the attitude towards learning that was taking place while I was there. I also had the opportunity to be present today when Regent Norwood was here. I first met him 2 months ago at Ford County School Board meeting. I'm even more impressed today after spending time with him in the building. I believe that this is a gentleman who really understands what education is all about, and that his instincts and his heart are in the right place. And I'm glad that our superintendent reached out to him and brought him to the district, because I think we now have I don't want to say a friend, but certainly a person in Albany who understands some of the tasks and some of the frustrations that our teachers are facing on a daily basis. So.
Ron, can you just explain just for what Regent Norwood is, what his status is and his...
Sure. He is a member of the Board of Regents, which basically run the educational system, among other things, in the state of New York. As he points out, where the legislature and the governor allow them to. But having said that, it is an extremely powerful body, and he has made no bones of the fact that he thought that the state did a very poor run out of Common Core, that the introduction was flawed. He has commented publicly that of a teacher who was of significance in his life, that to rate that teacher on a scale of 1 to 4 is not indicative of the influence that she's had on him. He was very interested today in the linkage between technology and student learning and student involvement with things like computers and technology, and the different pathways that students can now take. The fact that the state is opening up new pathways to graduation, trying to make education more meaningful. So
just to add to that,
Sure.
he is also a member at large of the Board of Regents, so he basically is covering everything from Buffalo up to this area, and he also sits on the Professions Committee. He is a health expert, basically. He works for the the Finger Lakes Consortium out in Geneva, and he spends a lot of time looking at the professions as well. I think you mentioned before at our school board's meeting that he sits on the professional team that deals with discipline as well, in terms of how people are doing professionally, nurses, doctors, and that whole piece, and really helps to set standards around health and pieces that deal with professions, basically. So pretty big guy, and he's sat on the Board of Regents for quite a long time. So a pleasure to have him. So yeah.
Any other questions about the Regents Norwood? If not, we do have a need to go back into executive session. Back in the 80s, we used to use an expression that positive behavior that goes unrecognized tends to be extinguished. In other words, if you don't tell people when they're doing good things, they tend to stop doing good things. It's the intent of the board to see that each and every staff member at Wayne Central gets an evaluation, gets feedback on their performance, and that's done in a timely fashion. And so we do have a need to go back into executive session at this time. If I could get a motion to that effect. Carla, a second. Jeremy? All in favor? Thank you. Folks, you're welcome to stay, but I guarantee you we will not be conducting any other business tonight.
What's the purpose of the executive?